Hey guys, it's Allie. Welcome back to Infertile AF, the podcast. This is episode 13 called Elshane. So today I'm talking to my new friend and a huge presence on social media. She goes by the handle Elshane's World. She has almost 100,000 followers on Instagram. She is a fashion stylist by day, a blogger by night, mommy 24/7, bi-coastal, NYC and LA. And she describes herself as if Carrie Bradshaw were a mom. So if you haven't checked out her Instagram posts, definitely go there and look at these adorable pictures of her 3-year-old who's named Sunday. And you will notice also that Elshane is pregnant and she is going to have her second baby any day now. So I went to her apartment a couple of weeks ago and she told me all about her secondary infertility story and how she went through IVF. So without further ado, this is Elshane's infertility story. Okay, so we are rolling. So hi, thank you so much for doing this today. I can't wait to hear your story. I know you've written about it, but I love to hear it in your own words as well. So
thank you.
First of all, I want to talk about just you as a person and growing up. Did you always want to be a mama? Did you always want to have kids?
I never really pictured that far in advance in my life. Like, I never pictured my wedding gown, and I never pictured my wedding, and I mean, I guess I always wanted to be married and have children, but I was never like, I want to be a mommy when I grow up. Okay. So I just felt, I was always just looking a few years ahead of myself at a time.
Okay, and you grew up in New York, you said,
I did.
Right? Okay,
yes.
So how did you and your husband meet and get together, and when did you guys know that you wanted to
We went to Lehigh University.
Okay.
We met in college. We're college sweethearts. He was a few years older than me. We dated throughout college, and then we broke up for about 5 years after we graduated. He was living in China, and I was living in New York, and then he was living in LA, and I was living in New York. So
okay, a little bit of a spread there.
Yes, we had the highs and lows.
Yeah,
but we were meant to be, and we somehow found each other and got back together, and that's what got me to LA there for him. And I think the second I moved there was when I really got excited about, getting engaged and getting married and the thought of having a child. So that's when it all came down.
Okay. Had you guys talked about having kids, like, before you got married, and were you on the same page?
We were on the same page.
Okay.
We both had a really beautiful picture of marriage. Both of our parents were married and, had kids and cousins. So we always saw, like, a really positive light behind that.
So what happened when you guys started to try for the first baby?
We started to try for our little baby Sunday, who's now 3 years old, and within 3 months, we were pregnant.
Okay.
I didn't use any of those sticks, the ovulation sticks. Kits.
Yeah.
I felt I felt it was too robotic. Like, I didn't want to be tied down to a stick of telling me the exact moment of. It was stressing me out. So yes, I kept I knew the windows that I could try in, but I wasn't a slave to those sticks and all of that.
Okay.
And it worked for us.
Yeah.
It made it no pressure. It made it as fun as it possibly could be.
Right.
And we had a beautiful pregnancy.
Good.
We had a textbook, happy, healthy, very minimal issues.
Did you find out what the gender was going to be, or was it?
Yes,
you did.
We did.
Okay. So how did you come up with the name Sunday? I love that. It's so cute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I always dreamed of having a daughter and naming her Sunday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's a happy name. Mm-hmm. I love to enjoy my weekends. Sunday is for me such a great day where I can relax, hang out with friends. I like to maximize a Sunday and go all through the night instead of spend half the day worrying about my week ahead of me.
So you don't get the Sunday scaries like
most other people. I have a problem with the Sunday scaries. Like, I
concept?
find it to be so upsetting because people are wasting a beautiful day worrying about another day.
I like that.
It's really pessimistic in my mind, and it's like, it's very upsetting to me.
Okay, and you're such a positive person.
I'm very positive.
I can tell from your Instagram and just your aura, like.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you had her, the delivery was good and all that stuff?
It was just like, it was great. The whole experience was great. I delivered her 1 week early. Everything went very well. Healthy, happy baby girl.
What's your favorite part of being her mommy?
I just love watching her be herself and taking on the world through Sunday's eyes. I think that she has absorbed a lot of my husband and I, but I also think that she has an unbelievable mind of her own, and watching her navigate the world is just mind-blowing to me.
Cool. Okay. So then when it came to baby number 2, you said that you started trying like a month after Sunday turned 1, I believe, right?
Yes, a month before Sunday turned 1.
Sorry, a month before, yeah.
I was ready to start trying when she was like, 6, 7, 8 months old.
Really?
I grew up with a brother who was 6 years older, and we were very close when we were younger, and we're still close, but I just have always envied the siblings who are very close in age and the difference in a relationship that those siblings have. And I wanted to give that to Sunday. So I wanted the 2 under 2 so badly. Like,
I love that.
It seems that every, one of my friends and everyone I know had. I wanted that. So we tried for the 2 under 2. And within 2 or 3 months, again, we were pregnant, just like Sunday. And this time, it just didn't follow the same path as Sunday's pregnancy.
Okay. So what happened? You went in to hear the heartbeat, right? And
we went in to hear the heartbeat at 6 weeks. We were fine. The baby was like, they actually said that it was looking a little smaller, but the heartbeat was there and strong, and everything was fine. And the next step was to come back at 8 or 9 weeks and check again. So basically, we went through that whole first trimester of doctor's appointments, and by just shy of 11 weeks, we lost the heartbeat. So we had a DNC, and I actually got a blood clot from the DNC. So the healing was a little bit longer, but
how did you figure out you had a blood clot?
When they were doing the DNC, they noticed that there was one particular area that was really hard for them to remove. So they kept trying and trying and trying, and they basically said, this is going to have to work its way out on its own.
Okay.
And we'll keep monitoring it, but the more we keep digging at it, the more likely you could have like a scar tissue, which is not what we want. So they left it alone, and they said the body will do what the body does and release it on its own.
Okay, and that's what happened?
Yes.
Wow, that's interesting. So you wrote this amazing blog post about this, and I want to quote something that you said because I thought it was just so well said and so interesting the way that you worded it. So you wrote, "I could write a lengthy tale of emotions on this topic, but truthfully, aside from the utter shock and disappointment, I was okay with it in terms of having a miscarriage. I knew the statistics of how common miscarriage was, and I was so thankful for how happy and healthy our little Sunday was. So I felt this was a rite of passage for our family's next step, sort of we got so lucky with the first, it was written in the stars that we would have to pay for it somehow mentality." So tell me a little bit more about that. I thought that was a really interesting perspective.
Thank you. That's truly how I felt.
Yeah.
Of course, I was, and my husband too, we were crushed with the miscarriage, but we felt so lucky to have Sunday, and we just, I don't know, I feel like in life when you have such luck in some places, you can't be graced with luck in every step that you turn, and you can't appreciate the highs without the lows. And I knew that it was expected that bad things happen all the time, and I was prepared to handle this, and I knew that it was common, and I was not going to let it defeat us. So it just felt like a natural rite of passage as a mother who was trying to have babies. Like, okay, I had a miscarriage. Yeah. Now let's try again.
And did you have friends who had them, and were you pretty open about it?
A few friends, and this was 3 years ago now, or just shy. It was about 2.5 years ago when this happened, and no one was talking about it.
Right.
like I remember one of my friends had briefly mentioned it about a year before, and I didn't really harp on it because she just kind of said it in passing, so I didn't want to pry. And then, of course, once it happened to me, I called her up and we talked about it. And I don't know why. Yeah, I'm confused why people don't talk about it.
I feel like a lot has changed even in the last year.
I agree.
Because when I was going through it, it was like 4 years ago now, and it was just I couldn't find any podcasts. I couldn't find any good books.
Yeah.
I was just like fledgling, and I felt so lost. And that's the reason that I wanted to start this whole thing and get the conversation rolling more, is because I just think you have to talk about this stuff.
Absolutely.
It's like crazy not to. So you guys started trying again, and I think you said it was about 6 months of trying. Like, did you start seeing a specialist at that point, or were you?
We started trying again, and our doctor in LA, who I love so much, he was basically
Was it Dr. Wong?
No, because that was a fertility
doctor. Okay.
And he is an exception for. Of course I know.
Okay,
him.
His name keeps popping up with LA people.
Yes,
it's funny.
But this is just my gyno, because at this point I was just with a gyno, and he was like, "Oh, you got pregnant twice within 3-4 months each time. You'll be fine. Just go for it."
Yeah.
So 1 month goes by, 2 months go by, 3, 4, 5 months go by, and at this point it was really frustrating because I wasn't pregnant, and it had been a year now since I had first started trying, between the miscarriage and healing from the miscarriage. So we took it to the next step, and we went to see a fertility doctor who advised us to start IUIs. They said, "You guys are super healthy. You've had a healthy baby. We don't see there as an issue at all. Maybe it's stress. Maybe it's just something blocking that an IUI can solve."
Was there other stuff that you tried? Like, did you do acupuncture at that point?
At that point, no. I was I'm not really a wellness girl, and I'm not spiritual. I'm very matter of fact.
Okay.
So
interesting.
I didn't take any alternative paths. I was just like, I'm gonna stay calm, and I'm gonna stay stress free, and drink water and work out and just be me, do what I normally do.
Yeah.
And when this is meant to be, it'll be.
And how was everything with you and your husband? Like, were you guys getting along, or sometimes this is really hard on a marriage? It was hard on mine, and I've talked about that a lot.
I think we were getting along great. I think the only issue was that I was so much more frustrated than he was, and I felt such a need to take it to the next step sooner than he did. I think he doesn't run to doctors quickly. He loves to just self-solve things, and I believe in doctors, and I want answers quicker. So I was ready to take the next step, and he said, "Okay, just 1 more month of trying, just 1 more month," and that was always frustrating for me.
Okay, so then you moved on to the IUIs, and how did that whole thing go?
It went very wrong. The IUI, again, almost brings me back to how I didn't like the ovulation testing kits, how exact and matter of fact. And the problem with the IUIs for us was, of course, since they make you do it within, a few hour window on the exact day you're ovulating with the shot, and then come back 10 hours later. And my husband travels so much for work, and I am all over the place too for some reason. It's not easy for me to be exactly in one place at one time.
Right.
We had so much trouble physically getting the IUIs, logistically doing it. I remember one time the doctor says, "Okay, tomorrow morning is go time, so I'm going to give you the trigger shot right now." And my husband was in Cincinnati for work, and he was supposed to be flying back at 7 a.m. the next morning, but his schedule with work is always up in the air until he's actually physically in that seat on the flight. So I'm calling him at the doctor's office saying, "Should they give me this trigger shot right now? Are you going to be home tomorrow morning?
That's
Promise
so stressful."
me." And he's not picking up, and the doctor's standing there with the shot waiting to give it to me, and I'm like, I can't guarantee you my husband's even going to be home tomorrow morning to make this happen.
Oh, wow.
That was one time. Another time, we were the day that the implantation of the IUI was supposed to happen, we conveniently were flying to New York at like 10 a.m. in the morning. So we pushed our flight back to 4 p.m. so we could get the IUI done at 10 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you're not supposed to fly 3 hours after you have an IUI. That's not relaxing.
Right.
Like, that's stressful.
Yeah, exactly.
So
unless you're on like a PJ or something.
Yeah, and unfortunately
like
we weren't.
With your legs up in the
No,
air.
we weren't. So it's like every time we had an IUI, it was just not in the cards for us.
Okay.
We were trying way too hard to schedule it.
Right.
And it was not on our side.
Okay. So then it did work at some point.
We
though,
did
right?
six. So we did 6,
Okay.
which some doctors say do 2. So I don't know. I regret it. I regret it so much because anything infertility related is expensive.
Right.
And our insurance doesn't cover
Yeah.
anything. And
Yeah.
I wish we could take back those 6 months of IUI costs and stress and have gone straight to IVF. But we weren't ready to go to IVF yet.
Okay.
We didn't realize we were IVF people.
Right.
yet.
Yeah, you wrote about that, and I thought that was another really interesting perspective. You said that you weren't an IVF girl. So I never thought that I was either. Like, I didn't know anything about IVF, and I was like, oh, that's just for people that want to have multiples, or
Yes.
like Octomom, or I
Or
was so
pick their
clueless.
gender or
Yeah,
the genetic.
so I didn't consider myself one. I never, ever, ever in a million years would have guessed that I would have done that at some point. So tell me about your take on that.
So we do our 6th IUI, and this was a medicated IUI. So that IUI stuck, and we were only pregnant for 6 weeks with that.
Okay.
We never heard the heartbeat, but that last IUI and that last miscarriage definitely changed my perspective. That was my breaking point. I spoke to many women who have done IVF, and I said, like, when was the morning you woke up and you finally admitted to yourself that you're going to do IVF?
Yeah.
To me, it took 6 IUIs, and it took that next miscarriage to admit it. So that's the morning I became an IVF girl.
An IVF girl. So then what happened? Did you...
So it was almost a huge relief because I was like, finally, I'm ready to take another step, and I'm tired of waking up every month and just banking on fate. Like, I want to take this, take it into a scientist's and a doctor's hands.
Okay, so then when you guys started, you said that nobody talks to each other in the waiting rooms, and I remember that too. It was like this sea of people, and no one's making eye contact, and you didn't either. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Throughout the whole process, I had such like overwhelming positivity because I was so convinced that my process would be easy. With IUIs, I thought it would happen right away. With IVF, I thought it would happen right away. And I like to stay in the positive, and I felt that you're just surrounded by so many women in the waiting room, especially early in the morning. Everyone's doing their shots and waiting for the results and the blood work. And I just, like, I could look around, and especially seeing the age disparity, you could sort of calculate what's going on. Like, there are some maybe older women who are there who've been maybe doing this for a while, and there's some young girls who are there who are maybe freezing their eggs by themselves. Like, you can kind of create these stories which could be totally false. But it just kind of made me realize, like, wow, I'm going to go in too deep if I start just sharing stories with all these women. It's not going to keep my mind on track of, like, staying positive and having this be my one and only time in this room.
Okay. You also talk about how IVF was kind of like a game to you, and like how the shots were fun, which made me laugh because I was like, okay, this is not your average perspective on the shots, but I love that. And again, going back to your positivity, like, you know, you said that you and your husband really bonded over this and like would laugh hysterically. So tell me about that.
It was a game to me. It was ridiculous the way that they give you a pink piece of paper with so many medical terms and ounces and fluids. I don't even remember the terms. And they're like, okay, just do it. And if you have questions, YouTube it. And they don't even give you like a specific verified YouTube. They're like, just find like some chick on YouTube that
Google it.
you know, that you relate to. So it was wild that, and yet you know so many people do it. Right. So you're like, okay, if everyone's doing this, then I'm going to do it.
Right, but they make it seem like the margin of error is so small, right?
Oh,
it's like if
absolutely.
you don't do this and if you spill this and you're so
Absolutely.
nervous, like mixing the stuff together and like...
Yeah. So it was a
ridiculous.
game in that sense.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, okay, there are instructions and you have to do it right.
Right.
And I mean, I remember the first night, of course, once again, you know, my husband's traveling for business, my first night of shots, he was not here. So I called my friend and she helped me, and we're just like watching this YouTube video over and over again. And then all of a sudden it was our turn to actually do it and to mix the solutions and to stick the needles into me. It was crazy.
It is crazy. It's
completely crazy.
It's crazy
that's allowed.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, that shouldn't be allowed. Like, you should have to have a degree to stick yourself.
Did you go to that class where you learn how to, like, do all that?
The class was very interesting because so they give you a fake belly, and then they give you real needles. And like,
I didn't get a fake belly at my class. Okay.
They give you a fake belly with real needles and maybe, like, a fake solution to put in the needles and to inject into the belly. So first I try it and I'm like, okay, this is weird. I got this.
Weird.
And then my husband's like, all right, I'm going to try this. And my husband goes to inject the belly with the needle. And instead he injects his finger. Okay?
Oh my God.
So that was like the start. I was like, wait, you actually just missed the belly and you injected your finger with the fake solution. You're never giving me my shots. Like, that's crazy. So it started off with me doing my own shots for about 3-4 nights.
Okay.
And then he would always be there. He was the ice pack guy. He was the pass this, pass that, throw this needle away, and he was absolutely there the whole time. And finally, night 3 or 4, I kind of gave up the control a little, and I said, I really want you to be a bigger part of this. I want this to be something that we both remember, and that like you can look back and remember doing for me to help me. So I released control and I let him start doing my shots, and starting on that night was when we just started having so much fun with it.
Yeah. Were there any other mishaps? Did he like...
No mishaps after that. I think like that was his one and only moment.
Yeah.
I mean, towards the end, he would... Do you remember like the progesterone in the butt? Like those... those needles.
I did all mine myself. My husband didn't administer. He was there, but like, he didn't do any of the shooting up.
Well, the shots in the butt are like the needles are big, and the shots are intense.
Yeah.
And he would like he would say like, this one's for you, you know, not sharing your ice cream with me last night, just like slam it into my mouth. He would be just dying laughing. Like, it's really hilarious.
I love
when you think about that.
So you said that at this point you did start to do acupuncture, right? And
yes. So actually the acupuncture started around IUI number 4. Okay. Like 4 months into being in the infertility, doctor world. I'd never done acupuncture. I'm not like a wellness girl, but at this point I wanted to test the waters of just dipping into things that could help. I wasn't ready to have a million special concoctions of multivitamins that like you read about, or change my diet completely. I wasn't ready to do that, but acupuncture seemed easy enough for me to commit to once a week. And
I think you wrote also that you never read like a study that said that it was like a negative or not gonna. So
exactly, because you ask your doctors and they basically, I asked my doctor, I say, okay, I read that you're not supposed to eat gluten and dairy and sugar and alcohol, and that's literally my entire diet, and that's what makes me happy. And I'm confused because you're telling me to completely change my body, but I'm me. Like, I don't know. That's just who I am. Like, I love my wine and I love my desserts, and I'll try to modify it. But so when you ask them all these questions, they really keep science and wellness separate, and they're like, you don't have to do that. And it's up to you to decide if you want to take that approach.
Yeah, I remember my doctor at one point said, should I not be drinking at all? And he said, you know what? Stress is actually harder on your body than alcohol in moderation. So if you're going to be stressed out that you're at a wedding and you can't have a glass of wine, have the glass of wine. Because the stress is worse. And I was like, I will subscribe to that theory. Like, and that makes sense to me. Okay, so tell me about the retrieval and the transfer and...
So the retrieval went well. I wasn't expecting it. It's not a big surgery, but it is. You're put under. Right. You're wheeled away with your little shower cap thing on your head and your
socks and
your gown, and you're in a room with like 4, I don't even know why there's like 4 people looking over you, like what all of their roles are. But it shocked me with how much more intense it was than I was expecting it to be. Mm-hmm. But the retrieval went well. We were expected to get 6 eggs, and we got 9.
Okay.
So it was nice that the doctor kept my expectations a little lower, and so I was a little happier with the results.
Right.
Going into it, I was upset because he told me I was only going to have 6, and I heard my friends who had 20 and 30 and these ridiculous numbers. Mm-hmm. But 9, I was very happy with. Mm-hmm. We had always planned for a fresh transfer, which is something that not a lot of people do, because in a fresh transfer, you cannot test the embryos. Okay. You can't test them for genetic testing or for gender or anything. So if you're going about a fresh transfer, it's most likely in a case like mine where they think that everything is healthy enough inside and they're just banking on the best looking embryo to be healthy.
Right.
In a fresh transfer case, you have your transfer 3 to 5 days after your retrieval. Mm-hmm. So the whole process is very, very quick.
Right. Okay.
So my fresh transfer was 5 days after my retrieval.
Okay.
And
what did they say about your embryo? I remember you.
They said it was like the most beautiful embryo they had ever seen, and I'm just.
Were you like, you say that to all the girls?
I need to know like how many other people they've said that to.
It would be interesting to find out. I didn't get that.
Wow.
So.
Okay. I mean,
yeah. So then, tell me what happened. So you had the transfer.
So the morning of the transfer, I did a double acupuncture as advised by my acupuncturist. I did acupuncture about 2 hours before the transfer, and then about 3 hours or 4 hours after. So who knows if that helped, but I'll take it and I'll suggest it to everyone.
Yep. Certainly didn't hurt.
Yes, and I didn't test for the pregnancy, starting at day 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, I really waited it out. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to be disappointed with the result by testing too early.
Yep.
So I waited until the exact amount of days they said to test, which was, I forget if it was 10 or 14, whatever it was. And that morning I tested and I got the positive. I ran right into to get the blood work, and everything from there, the numbers were good. Yeah. And I just felt like that was the one.
Yeah.
I just
felt different than the other ones?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I really did.
Okay. And then you started calling this your science baby.
Which is my science baby.
So, we should tell people you are pregnant right now with this science baby, and you're due soon.
Due in 3 weeks with Science Baby.
Oh my gosh.
Her name has been Science Baby from the start.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud to be part of the IVF community. Something I never thought I would be a part of. And it's an amazing community of women and men. Mm-hmm. Any husband or partner in any sense who has been along on the journey just gets it. Mm-hmm. And I feel really just honored to be a part of this.
And you're literally glowing right now. you are. You're like have the biggest grin on your face. You. How is Sunday feeling about becoming a big sister?
I think it was written in the stars that we were supposed to wait this long for a baby, because she is now 3, closer to 3.5, and she gets it all. She is so excited. She talks to my belly. She sets up corners in the apartment for baby to sleep and eat and play with her toys. And she told me yesterday, I asked her what she wants to be when she grows up, and she says, I want to take care of baby sister. I think this is our family, how we were meant to have it.
Oh, and I love that.
It's still such a small age gap in the scheme of things.
Right.
So really it still is everything I hoped for.
Yeah. So one more thing that you wrote was that you said, I hope this story inspires some, but I know it might frustrate some too, but this is my tale. Why did you think that it might frustrate people?
I think my IVF story is like a really beautiful, positive, quick IVF story.
Okay.
I mean, from the first needle to the last needle, you couldn't have had a shorter IVF. I'm not talking about everything that happened before.
Right.
I'm talking about strictly IVF and needles.
Yeah.
I think all in all, the whole process, I don't know, 9 to 12 weeks. I'll have to really calculate it. But I had one retrieval, one transfer that happened 5 days after my retrieval. I was in and out, and it worked the first time.
Yeah.
And I have many friends where that's not the case.
Right. But you still went through it. I mean,
I know, but I think it's really frustrating when you've been through many retrievals or many transfers, and you hear stories where it happens right away. I felt frustrated when I heard friends who had the first IUI that worked.
Yeah. No,
and then I had 6 that didn't work. So
yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have empathy for people that are
absolutely, because I have such a big IVF community that I have like personal relationships now through my Instagram. Since I've been so open about it on Instagram, I've made amazing friends with people I know and people I don't know.
Right. It's
and
cool,
some of these women still, it hasn't hit for them.
Right.
I just think that staying positive is really your only friend in this scenario, because once you go down a negative path, it's really hard to lift yourself back up.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I also think my biggest advice is for anyone else in the world to stop asking people when they're getting pregnant, because that was the hardest thing for me, is when someone would ask me, when are you giving Sunday a little brother or sister? Right. It killed me to keep a smile on my face and just say, oh, maybe soon, when they had no idea what I was going through.
Yeah, people don't know what other people are going through. You're so right. You're so right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, and I'm so happy for you guys. I can't wait to see pictures of this little girl, and
thank you so much.
I wish you the best of luck with the delivery and everything.
Thank you.
I really love the positive attitude. I think it's so inspiring and so awesome. So I know everybody listening will appreciate it too.
Great.
So thank you.
Thanks.
Hey again, so that was Elshane. I want to thank her so much for having me over to her home and for sharing her story with us. I also want to remind you guys to hook your girl up and go to the podcast page. Rate, subscribe, review, all that good stuff so we can keep this going and get even more people listening. Thank you so much. Talk to you next time.